8 months ago, DJI announced a few new accessories for the Ronin 4D. The thing that made me very excited for all these months was an extension cable called the 4D Flex. Now, this is not a totally new invention because we already know the idea of an extension cable for the sensor from Sony Venice. Basically, it's just an adapter and cable that allow you to physically separate the sensor from the camera. However, something that makes the 4D Flex more unique and versatile is the fact that here you have not only a removable sensor, but also an integrated gimbal, so you have full control over the camera movement, and now it is certainly the smallest and most versatile professional remote camera head in the world. But why it is more important than you think? Let's find out. In the set you get a special clamp for rig setup and a 2-meter long extension cable which has a base plate for gimbal on one end and a connector for the camera and for the monitor on the other end. On the bottom of the mounting plate you will find two super solid mounting points, on the side for USB-C port and special adapters for the original 4D hand grips, and on the back a mounting point and a connector port for the original monitor. Now, switching the gimbal from the camera to the 4D Flex is very easy, very fast, and you don't need any tools to do it. The whole thing with putting the hand grips, monitor and gimbal together takes about 1 minute. Now, about the quality. Ronin 4D combined with the 4D Flex keeps the exact same cinematic quality with absolutely no limitations. What's more, the latest update gives us the option of recording in ProRes RAW again, which is a big deal for many users. Now, for all of you who still have not realized what's going on, I have in my hand the smallest but also the most powerful camera gimbal in the world, and everything I need to carry weighs only 3 kilograms. Blow my mind. Why it is such a huge deal in my opinion? Ronin 4D is not a small camera and depending on the lens and accessories weighs about 6 kilograms. It's not easy to carry such a weight in your hands for a whole shooting day, and in my review about the Ronin 4D, I show you some different support systems that make working with this camera much easier. However, now with the 4D Flex, you basically don't need any special rigs because you can put the camera body in the simplest backpack and that's it. All the weight is on your back and you only have less than 3 kilograms in your hand. The weight difference in this setup is huge, so it is a great option for documentary work or live production, for long events, and also for events that require discretion. You don't bring as much attention as with other configurations. Now, of course, such a setup also has its downsides. Using a gimbal in such a way means that you can use the major feature, which is Z-axis stabilization, because the stabilizing arm is an integral part of the camera body, so the problem of visible steps comes again. That's why I would like to show you another option that is my favorite, a Trinity style setup. Yes, I know that it seems to make no sense. I mean, take a gimbal of a camera that comes with the original Epic Z-axis stabilization and put it onto a big and complicated Steadicam style support system to get footstep stabilization. But anyone who has ever worked with such a set knows exactly that this is a whole different level of shooting. Extremely comfortable, and most of all you get a range of movement that is impossible to achieve using the Ronin 4D as a handheld camera. You can be with the camera extremely low and after a second 2 meters above the ground without moving your body. Pure pleasure of shooting. Of course, you can also put the Ronin 4D on a tilt-a-float without using the 4D Flex, and then you get double stabilization, but also some limitations, because with such a large camera body you need a lot of counterweight. The whole setup is then pretty heavy. Here it is totally the opposite. The camera body works as a counterweight, which is even too heavy, so you can put some weight on the top of the gimbal or move the center of gravity, and even though that the gimbal itself extends much higher, the results are much better than I expected. Something I like the most is the pleasure and simplicity of operating the whole thing. It is very intuitive and comfortable. What's more, you can mount the monitor not to the gimbal but to the grip, so you can always see the frame no matter in which position you have the camera. The only small modification I had to make here was to slightly move the LiDAR sensor, because in the low mode position the sensor does not fit under the gimbal, so I had to mount it on the front of the lens. This modification is extremely easy and you just need a simple hair rubber band. Another great option that comes with the 4D Flex is basically any setup for which the Ronin 4D was previously too heavy and large. For example, the amazing shots from Top Gun, which I think we all know, were taken using the Venice extension system because it would be extremely difficult to put so many cameras in such tight space. And keep in mind that with 4D Flex we have even more benefits, because now you can not only put the camera almost anywhere, but also you have full access to camera settings and even movement. Imagine that shots you could previously only dream of now are extremely easy to realize. You know, it's a bit like some kind of action or crash cam that you can put or attach anywhere, but with the cinematic quality of the footage and the amazing stabilization. But not only that, here it is worth mentioning about the possibilities of some static or totally handheld shots. It is quite a tricky thing to put a large lens on a Ronin 4D. I mean, totally possible, but quite complicated. But now it is so much easier because in the set we get a special clamp that you can use to attach the gimbal to the rig or baseplate, while the front part of the lens is mounted on a standard lens support. What do you get in return? One of the lightest professional handheld camera rig that you can imagine. You can now use many lenses that are huge, heavy and long, and on top of that, in combination with the LiDAR sensor, you get something that no other camera in the world will give you. Autofocus on a lens like picture zoom, this is a huge deal. What's more, you can now work with such large lenses with the Ronin like a totally handheld camera and put it on to a basically any kind of shoulder rig. Perfect for this seems to be the new rig from Tilta, because it is very lightweight, very functional, and with the special adapters you can put the original hand grips from Ronin 4D on it, so you have control over the focus. And if you have some additional wireless motor, you can power it straight from the connector on the baseplate and control the zoom wirelessly. No other camera will give you this in such a simple way. As I mentioned, in the lightest option, that is with the DL lens and without hand grips, the 4D Flex weighs less than 2 kg. Such a small compact size and lightweight is the perfect combination for all kinds of ultralight camera cranes and special rigs. Here you can do it in the same way as with the Steadicam, that is, put the camera body as a counterweight on the monopod on which you mount the gimbal. A few clamps, put it on the tripod, and you have everything you need to take a camera dolly style shot or a shot from a very high angle. Here the maximum height you can get while standing is about 4 meters, but all you need is a little creativity to get even better results. Now, when it comes to stabilizing shots, you must know that I am truly obsessed about it. And if I use a gimbal, then without exception, my shots always have to be as good as possible. Of course, the Ronin 4D is the perfect tool for any kind of stabilized shots and has no comparison in this price range. But there are some very unique remote stabilizing camera heads on the market whose performance goes beyond our imagination. They are much more technically advanced than the gimbal that we already know, but they are also much more expensive. It's not just about the size of the cameras and lenses you can put in there, but more about the concept of performance. Basically, the camera that is inside gets dual stabilization in each axis. So you can say it is a gimbal on a gimbal. There is a giant 3-axis stabilized body with another 3-axis stabilized camera inside. So following this way, if we take the Ronin 4D Flex and put it on the big Ronin 2, we will get similar result. Let's check it out. Now, the first large gimbal absorbs all the forces related with fast driving, such as wind resistance, acceleration, braking or fast turning, while the second internal gimbal basically has less work to do, and thanks to this, stabilization even on very challenging lenses is absolutely outstanding. In this setup, I am also using a special adapter so I can use the external GPS module for the Ronin 4D, and so far, after a few first tests, I think it works pretty good. I still need to improve a few more details in my custom case, but at this point it's just a simple plastic storage box that covers the lens from wind resistance and all kinds of dirt, so the 4D Flex inside has a lot less work to do, and besides, it is always clean. As I said, I still need to improve a few things in this setup, so you will probably see some new ideas in future episodes, so be sure to subscribe my channel. Anyway, check out the stabilization with a 100mm lens. DIY 6-axis gimbal, something unbelievable. Now, of course, you don't always need two gimbals for great stabilization, so let's see how 4D Flex works in a simpler setup. The Ronin 4D by itself is a dream camera for such shots. You put the camera on the car and that's it. But there are also a few situations where size and weight is a kind of limitations. However, in the case of 4D Flex, these limitations are almost completely gone because such a small size and weight means that you can easily mount it anywhere on your car while still having all the benefits of quality control and 3-axis stabilization, except of course the axis arm. What's more, in the case of using only the gimbal and lens on all kinds of professional dedicated stabilizers, it is much easier and more safe because it is lighter and smaller, and even in case of bad weather, it is much easier to protect only the lens than the whole camera. Besides, remember that the gimbal itself can rotate around in a 360 degrees, while in the Ronin 4D you have a field of view limited by the camera body. Well, and basically the most important thing, stabilization without the axis arm. The Ronin 4D, as I mentioned many times, can work perfectly even with large lenses because it has very powerful motors, and remember that it stabilizes only the lens and sensor and not the whole camera. So basically, no matter if you put the 4D Flex on some kind of spring arm or straight into the car, I guarantee that you will be satisfied with the results. Guys, after more than a year of using the Ronin 4D, I still have the same opinion. It is absolutely the most versatile camera and gimbal I have worked with, because basically you don't need any extra accessories, everything is built in, and with a bit of creativity you will get any kind of shot you want. I also knew that DJI would definitely be upgrading this ecosystem, but it was hard for me to imagine what kind of thing would make it all even more functional. Now, after these few days when I had the pleasure of testing the 4D Flex, I think I will never take it off from the camera body again, because in my opinion, this small thing has really minimized all of these, let's say, downsides or limitations, and what's more important, it has given me some new ways to use it that I previously didn't even think about. Also, in my opinion, great appreciation to the entire DJI team. All the engineers, designers, your whole team are technical rock stars. Amazing how from a thing as versatile as the Ronin 4D, you have made equipment even more universal. It is amazing for me how with such a simple thing as a 2-meter cable, you can remove all the limitations of using such a large camera. And of course, thanks for the possibility of shooting in ProRes RAW. If you guys could also convince Blackmagic Design to let us edit them in the DaVinci Resolve, I will be the happiest man in the world. Guys, I am also crazy curious in what configurations I will see 4D Flex in other filmmakers projects, so let me know in the comments if you have any ideas. As always, thanks for your time and see you in the next video.